Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We are back on the dev server, and it's time to go through all of the ground extra changes that they've done to pre-existing vehicles, and also some maps and stuff like that too. I'm changing it up the way that we're actually going to approach this one this time. Usually I do extras videos all in the kind of same place, but I thought this time I'll split it up into ground, into aviation, and then additional stuff on top of that. So if you want to see specific things, it's easier for you to find them. So in this one, we'll have a look at the ground vehicle changes, and then in the next video, we'll have a look at the aviation changes, and also the weaponry changes. So, starting off with ground vehicles, the first thing that they've changed is with the Chaparrals, the Type 81C, and also the Strela 10M2, which you can see here. Basically, they have changed the way that the ammunition is consumed, which pretty much means that it fires in a different way and also reloads in a different way. It's basically the same, but the main thing is the way that it fires and the way that it reloads is slightly different to previously. Won't make a huge difference for the vehicles themselves. Obviously, in terms of, where the ammunition is sat, it may be different, but that's, something we'll have to see. You can also see they added some graphical updates, which we'll cover later on too. The rain is something that they've improved, and it looks quite nice, right? I think in general, it is pretty cool. The next change is for the AML-90s. So what they've done with those, if they've changed the gunner sight zoom, this is something that they've done with a lot of these general vehicles. We'll just show you the Israeli one for now, but this is also in the French tech tree. Not sure if this affects the Ireland, we can check that too, but the optics for the gunner, which is right here, you can see that it is now 6 times, where before it was 5.5 times. So they've slightly improved it, meaning that it'll be a little bit easier to see at range. The Ireland is technically a different vehicle compared to the AML, but they do share quite a lot of similarities, so I just wanted to check if they changed this one too, and it looks like they have, so there you go. The Ireland is also changed. The Challenger Mark III and also the Challenger DS, which, well, they're basically the same vehicle. The armor parameters on the charge bins have been changed, so that's the internal stuff, the good old bins that are down here, where the charges are kept. You can see them right down here and also in different areas. They've actually increased them from 5 to 10 millimeters. This should mean that they are a lot better at staying alive and therefore won't explode as often. These ones back here, you can see them the first stage and then these, so it won't go boom as often. It still will go boom, just not as much. Big changes to the Freccia. So you may remember last time with the Freccia, they did a bunch of different changes to it, including adding the good old third-person commander sight, or not third-person, but the actual commander sight of the vehicle. They've also now added 3rd generation thermals to the vehicle, so it is really easy to see everything that's going on. They also increased its maximum speed by 2 kilometers an hour, so it can now go to 110 instead of 108. They've changed the engine and given it its proper name, the Iveco 82626V, and the machine gun ammo belt size, so not the main cannon, but the machine gun over here. This one is now at 1200, and then this one is also at 1200 too. The belt size specifically is now 600, so therefore 600 each, and also the smoke grenades have changed in caliber to 80 millimeters instead of 76. So it won't make a huge difference, but at least they should be slightly larger. The MBT-70 and also the XM803, these are both the American vehicles right here. They have their guns changed. They basically just renamed them. I don't think the ballistics have changed or anything like that, but instead of them being the E6, which is what they are right now, the name is going to be changed to the E5. So you can see here, it does say E6, but this is for the XM803. So this one went from the E5 to the E6, whereas the MPT-70 has gone from the E6 to the E5. So slightly confusing, but there you go. They basically just swap names between them. The Sholef one has been nerfed, not in a huge way, but every little bit doesn't help. Basically what they've done is they've changed the general armor of the vehicle. It's slightly different to what it was before for the engine deck. So the top of it here, what they've ended up doing is the deck roof armor has been changed from 30mm to 20mm. So this is the bit right here. Kind of makes me sad because, you know, the vehicle itself already isn't in the greatest place, but it just keeps handing out these like little nerfs to it, which kind of sucks. Talking about something that isn't a nerf though, the MX-30 Super. This got a gunner's sight zoom change too. So in this vehicle, it's now 4 to 12 times, where previously it was 8 to 12 times. I think overall this is actually a buff for the vehicle, not a nerf, so I like this change for it. The other gunner sight that has been changed is the FV4005. So where you can find this is in the British tech tree, and it, by the way, has a really cool user skin. The fish, if you've ever seen it, looks amazing. So the gunner sight on this has gone from 4.9 to 6 to 2.5 to 5. So in my opinion, that's a nerf. That's definitely not as good as it used to be and kind of sucks. There is also another change to this vehicle too that we'll get into later on, but unfortunately it is not as big as the gunner optic change. Well, I suppose it depends on how you see it, right? So before, the FV4005 was 59.5 tons, so about 60 tons. Now it's 50, so it's lost 10 tons worth of weight, so it should be faster around the place, but generally speed isn't really this thing's issue. Obviously the reload and making sure the gun is accurate is more of the issue. So for me, the gunner optic change instead of the weight change is quite a bigger issue, but, you know, I mean, it depends who you're chatting to and depends how they like to play it. The M46s, this includes the standard tech tree one and also the premium one, so since they're both exactly the same things, they have been slightly changed in terms of their armor profile. Basically, the M46, the armor of the whole roof has been corrected from 22 to 25, so it has a little bit more survivability against cannons, which is really nice, and also the floor of the tank has been split into 2 parts, so thickness of the front one is still 0.4, the thickness of the rear one is set to 12.7, so that is going to be a bit annoying, but that's talking about the bottom of the vehicle here. You can see you have 25 here and 12.7, so technically if something gets under the vehicle, it'll be easier to blow it up from here instead of here. But there's no way you can actually aim that or go for that all the time, which is kind of nuts. So the CV90 30 fin also got changed. Right here, the gun mantlet has been moved around. So you can see here it's 20mm, but then also you have the 20mm here, greater than 100 because of the weird angles that it's at. And also you have some rolled homogeneous armor around the place. So these have been just slightly changed. Not a huge idea, but, you know, it's something that will make a difference if you decide to shoot for the gun. The Bulldogs, there was some spark fixes, nothing too crazy. With those things, basically how the tracks interact with the ground. They just fixed a few things. And the Khalid, so they have changed this vehicle. So if you did pick it up in the recent sale, which is going on, which is currently going on, they have changed the gunner and commander sight zoom. It's been changed to 6 times to 6 to 10 times, where previously it was something else. So you can see that that's been slightly moved. 1 to 10 times for the commander, and then 7 to 10 times. And I've just realized I'm looking at the wrong Khalid. My bad. I apologize. There are 2 Khalids nowadays, aren't there? Yes, there are. The Khalid one. So this one isn't on sale, at least not yet. This got its commander sight change, and also its gunner. It's so crazy how many different vehicles we have in the game. I have to try and keep up better. But yeah, 6 to 10 times on the gunner optic and also commander for this thing. The Terran also got changed with its gun depression. Now this is something they've done with a few vehicles. This isn't just a Terran thing. This is also a Leopard thing. They are readjusting the angles where you can actually depress the gun in terms of its relation to the hull. So basically what this means is, for the Terran specifically, there were areas of the hull that you could depress through, therefore kind of physically going through the hull of it to be able to get the -6 gun depression. And that is not okay, so they fixed that. But if you actually have a look at Leopards, they have actually fixed it in the opposite way for these guys, making it better for them, which is quite nice. So pretty much all of the Leopards that are in the game, or at least the Leopard 2s, what they've decided to do is they have made it so on the side of the vehicle here, what you're able to do is to press the gun more than you used to be able to, and also elevate the gun more than you used to be able to before it corrects itself and goes behind. So it just gives you a little bit more of a kind of use there, which I think is generally pretty good, but you know, it's not going to make a huge difference in terms of the gameplay or anything. It's just nice to be able to have that be a bit more realistic instead of what it is now, which is a bit more all over the place. So yeah, pretty cool to see that they've fixed those little things. It doesn't technically change, you know, the gun elevation or the gun depression. It just changes the angles that you can angle the turret at and still get those values, which is pretty important. The Centauros also have their smoke grenade caliber changed to 80mm instead of 76. The elevation of the Santal has been changed, giving it a buff, which is quite nice because the Santal is one of those I see a little bit, but it would be nice to see more. They basically improved the elevation of this vehicle from what it was previously, which was, I believe, 60 degrees, and now it is much better at a classic 65 degrees. You can see it right there with the elevation, so really good. The STRV 104 and 105, there was a bug that caused the commander fire control in the commander sight to not work, so that's been fixed, which is quite nice. They also fixed the Easter Varks drive camera position, so that, you know, obviously if you use that, that's very nice. But the bigger one, I think that's more important, is for the Vextra. So the location of the first stage shells has been corrected. Previously, all 12 shells were on the turret floor. Now 4 of them are in the turret, the rest are in the rear of the turret. So you can see here that this is some of them. I'm not sure if they're all there right now. It seems kind of weird. But you have the 4 next to the loader, and then you have the ones behind. So this increases the survivability of this thing. Not a huge amount, but enough to make a little bit of a difference. I think in general, this is a positive change for it. The ZTZ96s, the horizontal drive model, which was previously there, was too small in diameter. That's been corrected. This feels like, do you remember when they remodeled the whole ZTZ99 and there was a ton of changes they made to it and we just couldn't tell what was going on? I feel like there's a few ones for the 96 now, and that's one of them. There's also another change, the armor at the rear of the turret, which didn't match the visual model of the vehicle, which caused the horizontal drive to stick from it, has been corrected too. So that's talking about this area back here, and it does look a lot nicer, especially with the good old shadow in it. By the way, if you haven't played the ZTZ96s, I do really appreciate them. I think they're pretty fun. A lot of people talk about them as just kind of like worse Soviet vehicles, but they have their own charm, you know, with the thermals and also with the really powerful rounds. I think generally they do feel very nice. The WZ305, which is an incredibly powerful AA for the Chinese. They have changed some armor elements of it. Basically what they've done is armor thicknesses of several vehicle elements have been changed. So if you are a fan of the WZ305, it may be worth a look. It's not really going to change too much. It's still a vehicle that is very lightly armored, and you do have to shoot first in most engagements. The OF40s, which are some of my favorite MBTs in the game, they have actually changed those. Their sight magnification has been altered as well. So this is the OF40 Mark II and also the MTCA, which is just the Mark II but with an upgraded engine. So the sight magnification has been changed from 7 to 14 to a better value. So now it used to be 7 to 14 and now it's going to 8 to 16. Hasn't been changed yet, but I'm guessing it will be at some point. The Jagdpanzer 4.5 is getting changed too. Armor thickness parameters of that, of the stat card have been corrected on that. The AMX-40, they've also changed the smoke grenades on that to be more like real life, which is quite nice. They're at 80mm too, and also quite a large change, which will be welcome to a lot of American players and hopefully a lot of other players of the M60. The M60 A1 AOS, the Rise P, and also the DC Ariete, they've improved the reverse speed. So this vehicle used to have a 8.3 km/h reverse speed. It now has an 11.3. So that makes a huge difference. I know it may sound like really small, but these little changes make a huge difference to being able to fire the shot, come back, and then reset and do it over and over again, which I think in general is just really cool. The AMX-10M also got a sight change. Seems like it's a big thing for a lot of vehicles to get some gunner sight changes. I wonder how you kind of screwed that up in the first place. But you can see now it's 10 times. It used to be 6 times. So I'm not sure if this actually helps the vehicle or not, because obviously it's a missile launcher vehicle. You're firing the Acra. You are supposed to do it from range, but you want the biggest FOV to do it. I'm sure some people will benefit from this, but for me, I actually don't really like this. The Leclercs, they changed their smoke grenades. They're now 80mm, and some big buffs to some Japanese vehicles. So the STA-1 and the STA-2, these are some of my favorite Japanese vehicles in the game. They have got better engines now. Before they were 500, now it's 550 horsepower, so a little bit more oomph in the trunk, which is really nice. The Gepard 1A2 has gone up in weight, only by about 1.5 tons though. It used to be 46, now it is 47.5. And for the Boxer MGS and the Vilkas, they have also changed the gear ratios, which should change how they move around. You'll have to test out yourself how they generally feel. Another one is the Vilkas. The Vilkas has become a bit of a chunky boy. It was 33 tons, it's now 36.5. So added some weight on it, which means that it'll lose some of its mobility. The Type 87, which is the Japanese vehicle right here, what the Type 87 has got now, the AA, it's not the RCV, my bad. The elevation on the guns is now 85 instead of 80 degrees, so it's nearly at that perfect 90 mark where it can hit everything. But I've got to be honest, 85 degrees is pretty good for this gun AA. It's going to be, you know, if people come from right above you, it's going to be hard for them to kind of set up anyway. Then also the CV90 35NL and the Vextra 105, they have fixed the drone. Basically, their Scout UAV did not have access to thermals. Probably because of, you know, probably because of where they were in the tech tree, or maybe they just kind of forgot about them. But because these things are rank 7 vehicles, they have access to drones which have access to thermals, which are really, really powerful. Staying on the CV90 35NL, and also a lot of other vehicles which are around about the Swedish area. So the 122B, the PLSS, and the B+, the DK, the LVKV 9040, 9040B, the C, and the CV90 105 and the 120, all of these had their smoke grenades changed from that 76mm we talked about before to 80, making them a little bit more useful. They've made a huge change to the 2S25M, and they fixed, or tried to fix, one of the biggest issues that this vehicle has. Basically, the 2S25M has two crippling issues with it, and it is the gun elevation and the depression. Since it is quite a high vehicle, and even with hydropneumatic suspension, it sticks out quite aggressively. So what it does now is the gun depression angles have been changed from -5 to +15 degrees all around, to -5 +15 degrees when facing forward, and then -13 +17 degrees when facing backwards. So basically, if you're looking backwards, you can elevate more, but you lose some gun depression. Now, this sounds like a nerf, right? Because if you go behind the vehicle, then you won't be able to shoot more in a gun-depressed fashion. But I'm actually seeing it more as a buff, because in general, this thing whips around quite aggressively. One of the problems I have against this machine, or sorry, with this machine, is dealing with like helicopters and stuff like that. And if I can hit the booty and turn it around and then fire at the helicopters with a little bit better elevation, that's actually a huge plus for me, since the gun is really slow. But it's also could be seen as a negative. The SU-100 for the USSR and also China, they have also got engine buffs. So these vehicles are on the rise once again. They used to have 500 horsepower engines, now they have 520 horsepower, so they should be able to move around a little bit more, which I generally think is quite nice. They have also changed the M43 105 and the other Leoncello. Now, these vehicles are already in a quite rough place, but with the Leoncello, and also with some of the Leoncello's friends, what they've done is they've decreased the armor profile of this vehicle. So it is affecting the 105-75, and also the 75-34, and the 75-46. So I actually picked the vehicle that it doesn't affect, which that's actually quite impressive. But yeah, so basically there's a lot of vehicles here that it does affect, and that just sucks for them. And hopefully that is not too bad. The 120S got a buff for its optics from 3 to 10 to 3 to 13, which is quite nice. The Type 90s, they get less ammunition for their guns now. And also the Chart 25T and AMX-50 T090, there was a bug where it was possible to fire the main gun in the commander sight without turning on the backup fire mode, and that's been fixed, which is quite good. Big nerf to the AMX-10P. They have massively reduced the amount of machine gun ammunition that this thing had. Before, it had access to a lot, basically 4,600 rounds, which meant that you could keep continuing to fire this machine gun all the time. Now you have 2,000 rounds, so you still have quite a lot, but generally that is not going to make a huge difference because it's only a standard machine gun, but you never know, you might run out. They also changed the XM800T. They basically made it so the elevation angles were proper on this machine gun here, so it stopped clipping into the vehicle, because that's something it used to do quite a lot, if you saw that. One of the cool things about some Sho't cals that they've done as well, the gimbal specifically, and also the Dalet, which is the premium version, they have increased the vertical guidance. So now aced, it can get up to 6 degrees. Before, it could only get to 4 degrees. So huge buff for this, since targeting speed on these Centurions is really rough, so improving it in any way is fantastic. The vertical and horizontal aiming speed of the Skink has kind of gone through the roof. So previously, if you didn't know, the Skink actually had a pretty low targeting speed. What this vehicle was it was a vehicle that could go at 20 degrees per second. So 20 degrees targeting speed all around. They have made it more realistic. So now, instead of it being 20 degrees per second and 63 degrees per second, it is now 45 degrees per second, and also 60 degrees per second. So it turns a lot better than it used to, and the elevation hasn't changed that much. So its overall targeting speed has got a huge buff, which I think in general is fantastic, especially since it's just been added to, of course, the American tech tree, and therefore it'll be easier to get your guns on target compared to before. They also did another change to the CV90, 35DK, and Fin. They just changed their names. What they did is they just added a space there. So the CV, it's then a space and then the vehicle, so, or the vehicle name. You can see it with this one, so it's not all together anymore. And that's just because that's how it is in real life. The whole row got a nerf. I can't believe they've nerfed the whole row. It's already in an absolutely horrific position as a vehicle, but they have decreased the amount of explosive mass that you find in the APHE. It's now at 2.3 instead of 2.6. It's not going to make any difference to the vehicle, but yeah, it's kind of sad to see some of the big old donkey machines at low tier get annihilated. Also, the SD-KFC-2344, the event vehicle, there's a bug with crew swapping that resulted in the vehicle being left without a driver. That's been fixed. And also for the KPZ-70, which of course is the other side of the MBT-70 saga, the German one that you can see here. This one, there was a bug with the incorrect operation of the machine gun ammunition level indicator, and that's been fixed too. So when you fire the machine gun, you will know how much you've actually used now, which is nice. Instead of before, that is not what would happen. Also, the issue with the AMX-30 is finally fixed. I don't know if you guys ever saw this, but I saw it quite a lot. This is not just with the standard AMX-30, this was also with the AMX-32s and the AMX-40. There was a problem where the elevation angles of the 20 and also the main gun were just not synced at all. So they would move independently from each other, and that obviously isn't great. You can see now they move in exactly the same way, so you don't have to see it and see that it looks really weird. Instead, it all goes at the same time now, which is really cool. So big change there, because before the 20mm was actually faster than the gun. So, or the main gun, I should say. So what you could do is you could actually target a lot of CAS, you could target a lot of lighter vehicles very quickly, when now it's back to where it should be, which I think is pretty good. The ZST-63, PG-Z04A, the AMX-10P Bosvark, the M15 Soki Tarsay, and also TCM-20, the gun breech armor thickness value has been corrected, and this is going to cause a big pain. So previously, the breech armor of these vehicles was 10mm, so you could actually destroy them quite easily, right? So you could just take them out very, very easy, just like how the actual barrels are right now. Now it's 150, so you'll still be able to destroy the barrels quite easily, but you won't be able to destroy the actual breeches, so they're a lot harder to deal with. Also, the Baglet Panzer, the material of the gun breech casing has been changed from structural steel to cast homogeneous. Won't make any difference at all. The other vehicle for Israel is the Magach 7C. They've actually changed the armor in a positive way. So basically before, with the armor, it told you the wrong values. It literally didn't tell you the correct values. So the displayed thicknesses of the turret composite armor elements have been corrected. They were just wrong before, and that sucks. So you couldn't even make correct decisions because you weren't given all of the stuff. There was also a bug that caused the recoil effect for the ZT-3A2, even though it's an Ingwe missile, so they fixed that, which is quite nice. And last but not least, something really cool happened with the T1E1, which is right here. So the T1E1 90mm, which is the new T1E1 that they added to the game, this vehicle now has volumetric armor. So for the hull and the turret armor, it's completely been redesigned to be volumetric. So you can see here, all of it on the sides and all of this area is volumetric. So this is kind of cool because it's one of those things they said that they were going to do with a lot of modern vehicles and a lot of new vehicles, but it's one of those things that's been taking a long time to actually move around. So it's nice to see that that is finally being done. That's all of the ground changes for the vehicles that are already in the game. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.